Season 2, Episode 2 thoughts. This episode is called Bloodletting. Spoilers for every episode leading up to and including this one. Another episode I love. The video will be rated the same age as the episode, so I'm thinking TV-14 or something like that. And yeah, let's dive right in. So, as usual, a lot to love about this episode. They're doing a really solid job of just like gradually increasing the tension on multiple things. I mean, the show has been great at that so far in general, but the fact that we still haven't, like, Sophia is still missing by the end of this episode. Carl is, like, they might be able to save him, but they need the supplies. Shane and Otis are, essentially trapped. Like, I don't know that they're going to be able to get out of there. They're alive. They weren't bitten or anything. But, yeah. Let's see. I guess, yeah, by the end of the episode, it does seem like, T-Dog should be fine now that he's got I already forgot what it's called, but that kind of medication that he needs. Yeah, just, so these three major, tense situations, elements of the show so far that have not been resolved by the end of this episode. Just, yeah. Let's see. Yeah. I quite like the way the episode opens with this flashback to, we already knew that Lori found out that Rick had been shot, but we didn't see it before this episode, and, genuinely heartbreaking as you see, Lori tell Carl and them hugging afterwards. Let's see, and yeah, she can tell. Shane doesn't even have to say, something happened to Rick. She can tell, and she asks. I think she asks, "Is he dead?" or something like that, and Shane answers, he's in surgery right now, and yeah, Lori understandably asks how, and I just want there to be an outtake where Shane says, I think scalpel. Now, let's see. Yeah, I thought it really worked with Dale and T-Dog. I appreciate us not having to see exactly what happened in the back of that car where T-Dog finds cigarettes. Like, holy crap, this show really does not shy away from really, really dark. Yeah. Now, let's see. Then we have the, yeah, the thing with Dale and T-Dog, Dale is, how are you, how are you feeling? Something like that. Please don't, don't, I forget his exact words, but just like he's, please answer me on that, just, he's such a sweetheart. He's such he genuinely does care about, yeah. Now, yeah, and we see, what did he say? Blood poisoning or something like that, and they're going to have to get him antibiotics, that's what it's called, and after a little while he starts talking about, where the weak links we should leave, and he brings up lynchings. I really appreciate this show does not shy away from the racial tension. I want to say it's set in Atlanta. I believe that's what they said. Yeah, lot of yeah, racial tension there, and this thing about Merle and Daryl, and I do appreciate it. Turns out, Dale checks and he realizes, oh, you have a fever. That he's like basically becoming paranoid from this kind of, that is a thing that happens, and Dale can realize there's something off. Like, yeah, there's tension between T-Dog and Merle, but T-Dog really isn't the type to talk. Like, I'm not saying that it's wrong for black people in the South to worry about, that's not for me to say, 100%, but it's not really, T-Dog hasn't really said things like that. He didn't exactly like Merle or get along with him, but like outright talking about, yeah. So let's see, and yeah, they check for antibiotics for a while, can't find any in any of the cars, and when Daryl comes back, he's like, "Why didn't you just say so?" Which, like, in their defense, you've been gone for hours. They only realized after you left, but yeah, that's his way. And yeah, he's like, okay, so painkillers, antibiotics, and apparently there's some of Walter White's meth in there as well. That's not even a joke. That's like according to IMDb trivia. But yeah, and yeah, he explains, antibiotics. Well, Merle would get the clap every so often. He walks, away from the camera, and Carol's standing there like, the clap. Thanks for sharing. Meanwhile, T-Dog's like, antibiotics. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate Otis trying to make good. It would be so frustrating if he was constantly going on about how it's not really his fault or something. But no, he wants to make it right. And, Lori, I'm thinking as soon as the two of them are in the same room, Lori is going to have words. But for him, is that the phrase? Or is it they're going to have words? Something. Words will be had. Let's see, right, I like the detail that he's a vet. Oh, so like a field doctor. No, veterinarian. Yeah, that's and that is apparently, I'm not sure I ever really noticed that myself, but I saw, I want to say it's a Tumblr post. Not that I use Tumblr, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I saw it posted to, I want to say, was it maybe College Humor's old website or something like that. Yeah, this thing about, like, someone asked, why are vets so often in zombie media? And someone pointed out, well, for one thing, they usually have medication on them. They're used to not being, they develop the skill for not being bitten or scratched by patients, stuff like that. But yeah, that is, like, hopefully he can do the surgery properly, but that is yeah. Let's see. Right. Really, whoever is choosing these actors is a better caster than even Troy. Like, holy crap. Pruitt Taylor Vince, I have never been unhappy about him showing up in something. And the vet, I'm not 100% certain what that actor's name is, but I am 99% sure that he, like Pruitt Taylor Vince, was in the 2003 movie Monster, which, as I've said before, is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I suppose I won't say which of them, but one of those two broke my heart in that movie. So, yeah, incredibly talented people. Let's see. Then we have the, what's the other thing? Yeah, the fact that Rick is having to give a lot of blood, also increasing tension. And by the end, after giving several times, he can barely stand, And let's see, right, I appreciate them not going with the cliche of like, oh, but we don't know anybody here who has that blood type. That would have been a little too much, at least for this episode. I don't know. If they're going to do it later, I'm sure they can make it work. I think it would have been excessive for this episode if they also had to try to figure out who has the right blood type. And I believe this thing of, I can never, I learned it, someone tried to teach it to me once. I don't think it ever stuck, but I think about blood types. I think A+ is one of those, obviously it's the highest grade blood type, but I think it is the one. Wait, is that why it's called A plus? Is it like the American grading system for tests? Anyway, whatever. I think that is one of. I think there is a thing about like if one of the parents has it, it's very likely for the kid to have it, or vice versa, something like that. But yeah, let's see. Where does that bring us? Yeah, really appreciate this thing of them getting the yeah, this thing of they have to get all this medical equipment, and well, hospital burnt down. Meanwhile, somewhere Natasha Romanoff is like, it was one time. Am I ever gonna hear the end of this? And yeah, Shane is like, look, I'll go. Rick, if you try to leave, I will break your legs. Now get back in that bed and write that novel. And yeah, Otis is like, what about the school? It was turned into a FEMA camp. FEMA camps, those things that conservatives were screaming about, like, oh, Obama's gonna put his political enemies there, back when yeah, they were like, oh, wouldn't that be terrible? And then Trump comes out and says, I will use my power to hurt my political enemies, and suddenly Republicans are all for it. Yeah, interesting that. But yeah, that is also like FEMA camp at a school. I feel like I've heard that that's a thing, and yeah, understandably that was also overwhelmed, and there was at least one person in like a FEMA shirt, and I think some of them were like in camo. So yeah, if walkers attacked and a bunch of military and such were bitten. I can't believe I was just watching corrections. Someone beat me to. I swear I was trying to work out a zombie Texas Ranger joke, and somebody beat me to it. Now I think that might be just about it. Cool to meet some more survivors, and again they're doing this thing of like just gradually we get a sense of who the different ones are instead of all of them talking all at once. And yeah, it was really badass when one of them like rode on a horse and ride by batting of that one walker. And that was also quite a good, yeah, like Andrea tried to defend herself. The knife got stuck in the walker's chest. That does make sense. Let's see. And I appreciate it. The walker did survive, and then, Dara's like, shut up, and, crossbows it. And I think that might be everything that I had for this episode. Let's see, we have the thing, yeah, Andrea and Carol talking, and that thing about, I know how you feel, yeah, I guess you do. I just hope Sophia hasn't ended up like Amy, and it's like, oof. And she does immediately realize and apologize. Let's see. Right, I really appreciate this episode showing, in case anyone was wondering, because, some misogynists seem to think that women just don't care. Yeah, Laurie herself is also, it's not only Rick who's upset about the issues that they have with communication. And, she blames herself, as, sadly a lot of women blame themselves for things done wrong by men. And I will say with this, it does sound like there is some blame to go around. I think I need a little more information before I make a complete judgment. But I do really appreciate the, this thing of she is thinking, is this my fault? Kind of, yeah. Let's see. I have seen female feminists talk about, it's not as empowering as some might seem to think. This thing of, oh, women are never ever wrong. Every decision they make is always 100% right, and it's always men who are wrong. Sometimes it is, a mix of both. The important thing is to not have too much. Well, I'm not sure we still need any media where it is just 100% women's fault. It's yeah. And again, I'm quoting female feminists here. This is not, I'm not trying to talk over female feminists. Let's see. I think that might be. Let's see. I feel like there's one more thing. Let's see. Right, I like how, the vet, like Dale, you have this thing of, like, with age comes, experience, and that can help shape a healthy perspective. He points out, people used to say, AIDS was this thing that, AIDS was a thing that we'd never seen before, but people, acted like, oh, we'll never fix this, and yeah, I don't know if he's going to end up being right, but certainly it does make more sense to try to think like that instead of despairing. Despair doesn't get you anywhere. I get, like, doomerism can have a certain appeal. I'm not saying I always am the best at pushing that away, but I do agree that it's much more, constructive. The way we get results is to try to focus on, and have some hope and optimism. We do not accomplish anything by just saying we're doomed. Doomed. Yeah, incredibly tense ending. And it's such a clever, because, like, the moment that they use the flares, we're like, yes, what a great idea. Yeah, like, just a little bit of a distraction, and just immediately you have all these walkers looking off in another direction. It's just, yeah, very, very clever. But when they open the door again, it is like, I'll admit, I didn't think of that. I didn't realize that it would be, but the moment that I saw, yeah, it's like, it's not going to hold them off forever. Eventually, at least one of these walkers is going to turn around. Was walkers faster in this episode, at least here near the end, than earlier episodes? I'm not really complaining. It felt, they seemed faster. They usually do, like, kind of stumble, but yeah. Let's see. I think that might more or less, yeah, just incredibly tense there at the end. We even see that, yeah, like, the makeshift lock is not gonna last forever. That's, yeah, and the walkers are all over them. So yeah, and yeah, again, the show does a really great job of taking something that we would think, oh, that's kind of hopeful, that, seems like this could really work, and then, being like, no. Because the reason there are so many walkers at the FEMA camp, at least in part, is because there were so many military there, because that was how it was, the people who sent them there figured, we're going to need a lot there to help take care of this entire situation. And now there are a ton of walkers there. They were changed from a massive resource to a huge threat.